Hello, this is Judy, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the May 4th, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. I will do my best to pronounce all names and words correctly, yet please forgive me if I do not. And here is our first article, and it's under Canada and under Ontario. The title is For the First Time, More Than Half of Ontario Universities Are Led by Women, but it doesn't reflect the bigger picture. Women continue to be underrepresented in leadership at the post-secondary level, but recent moves at TMU, U of T, and others are being celebrated. And this article is written by Kristen Ruscovy, and that's Rushowy, Ruscovy, senior writer. For the first time in Ontario, more than half of universities are headed by women. And with the announcement of the new incoming president of Toronto Metropolitan, the four big universities in the city soon will be. It's really exciting. In Ontario, we are definitely appointing more women presidents, and I think you're going to see that trend happening over the years, said Donna Kostopoulos, and that's Kotsopoulous, who is the president of Senior Women Academic Administrators of Canada and the Dean of Education at Western University. The reality is, though, we still sit nationally at about 30%, so there's still work to do. While it is a historic moment to mark, experts agree that the surge in women presidents doesn't reflect the overall picture, which is that women continue to be underrepresented in leadership at the post-secondary level. Kostopoulos calls it a historical trend that we're navigating. There are fewer women in the senior professor level roles that can take on these advanced leadership roles, but that number is slowly changing. While perhaps not as fast enough, we have a really positive trajectory on senior women academic administrators. Her association is meeting this summer ahead of celebrating its 40th anniversary next year at Toronto Metropolitan University and had previously planned to feat new TMU president Roberta Inacito Provenzano, and that's INNACITO-PROVENZANO, for her work in supporting women in academia. What you see is these women leaders come into the roles, but then continue to advocate in really meaningful ways, added Kostopoulos. At the University of Toronto, Melanie Woodin, and that's Woodin, took the helm last year. At York University, after Rhonda Lenton stepped down last summer, Lisa Phillips was named interim president. At OCADU, Anna Serrano, and that's Serrano, is president. And just outside of Toronto, McMaster is led by Susan Teague, and that's Tighe. At TMU, 6 of 9 faculties are led by women, including its new medical school, as is the Board of Governors and its chancellor. U of T has reached gender parity when looking at provost, vice president, and dean hirings. In an interview, Inacito Provenzano said it's exciting and so important for female students to see, but also female colleagues. This is a great trajectory and a great trend that she's proud for her own daughter and son to see. Born to Italian immigrants, Inacito Provenzano was also the first in her family to attend university. She now becomes the first woman to lead one of the largest universities in the country. TMU Board of Governors Chair Catherine Paisley called it a happy coincidence that the school has women in 3 top roles: president, her own position, and chancellor, but said, "We were looking for the best candidate and the best fit at this time, and we had a strong pool to choose from, which is a wonderful thing." For students, they will always look at the president and they will always like to know the personal journey of the president, said Mohammed Lachemi, and that's Lachemi, who is ending his 10-year presidency when Ignazio Provenzano takes over in January. In terms of those personal experiences, that is a very powerful message to send to others, all communities, that this is Canada, and if you work hard and if you have the necessary leadership skills, you can lead big organizations. Sarah Kaplan, who was the founding director of the Institute for Gender and the Economy at the University of Toronto's Rotman School, said having women leaders certainly sends an important signal, and that it reflects a long-running effort to recognize the contributions of women scholars, but comes on a background of many decades and centuries of disregarding the contributions of women. However, on the flip side, women may be excelling in administrative leadership roles as opposed to rising up on the scholarly front, not because of lack of quality, but simply because of the roadblocks that have been there. Role models matter, she said, and there is power in representation. So I do think from that standpoint, always having diversity in leadership is important because you want diversity in role models. And if all you see are people who don't look like you, then that's harder. While women are making slow but consistent progress, racialized women are not, said Eric Lavigne, Lavigne, of U of T's Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, who has studied the demographics of post-secondary leaders. When it comes to vice presidents, the women in that position went from 26% in 1996 to 47% in 2022, also almost reaching parity, but we're stuck at about 30 to 35% for the full-time women faculty. There are two types of progress that we need to keep in mind when we look at presidential appointments, he added. We're making great progress with regards to women appointments, but when it comes to radicalized women, we're still not close at all to taking them into consideration. And Christian Ruscovy is a Toronto-based senior writer covering education for The Star. Under GTA, this article is titled, If I Were Mayor. Here's what these Torontonians would do if they were mayor. Tax cuts, income for artists, and a bat cave under City Hall. The latest installment in the Star series asking notable Torontonians and readers what they would do if they had the power of the city's mayor. And this article is written by Sadine Mohsen, Mohsen, staff reporter, and Ben Cohen, Cohen, of the City Hall Bureau. When we launched our If I Were Mayor series to coincide with the municipal election, we asked to hear your ideas on how to make the city a better place. In our first installment, we asked 12 notable Torontonians what they would do if voters gave them the city's top job in October. They called for fleets of ice cream trucks, untamed urban meadows, and campaigns to promote stricter adherence to social etiquette, among many other things. This edition has submissions from more people than you might recognize, but we've also included some of the many ideas Star readers sent in. We'll be sharing more of them in the days to come and hope that you'll send yours so we can share it with the rest of the city. Everything you need to know to send in your submission is at the bottom of the page. If the leading candidates for mayor were savvy enough, they'd be taking notes. Dan Ruskin, Riskin, former host of Discovery Channel Canada's Daily Planet. As a bat biologist and citizen of Toronto, I have a few big ideas I'd love to put into place for this great city. First, free transit. Many of the world's greatest cities have free transit, like Belgrade and Cold Lake, Alberta. By making the TTC the go GO train and the UP Express free, we will increase ridership and reduce traffic congestion. Giant bat cave under City Hall. Don't think of it as losing a parkade, think of it as gaining a sophisticated mosquito prevention program. Blue Jays Bat Days. Nothing says, let's go Blue Jays, quite like releasing tens of thousands of little brown bats from behind home plate. Okay, maybe letting a bunch of Blue Jays go would also work, but I think bats are more aligned with my vision for the city. New crime prevention illumination system. Here's the plan. We get a giant spotlight, like a super powerful one. Then I cut out a piece of cardboard in the shape of a bat. This unconventional system has seen dramatic drops in crime for other jurisdictions, and I'd like to try it here too. Aisha Jamal, and that's Jamal, who is a hot dogs film programmer. If I were mayor, I would introduce a basic income for artists and call it the Toronto Creates Income. As someone who works in the arts, I, like many of my peers, have to work other jobs like teaching to live in the big squeeze. Torontonians love to go to the movies, attend concerts, or live theater, but no one really wants to pay the artist behind it all a living wage. As mayor, I would do what Ireland does. Pay artists who are actively working a minimum weekly income. This would be regardless of other income, so an artist you can still earn money on top. You wouldn't need to propose a project or have specific outcomes to prove you deserve the money. You just get paid and make art. A steady income would give artists the freedom to focus on long-term creative work without the weight of financial anxiety. More of us could actually stay in creative careers and not just start them. This means stronger ideas, richer culture, and a creative ecosystem that benefits us all. David Schneider, and that's Schneider, who is a Toronto Blue Jays fielder. If I were mayor of Toronto, I wouldn't really change too much. I love the city. I love the people. I love the way people go around and do things. Maybe the one thing would probably be taxes. It's a lot of taxes. I mean, I'm not complaining about it, but help some people out, make some people pay less money. But other than that, I love everything about this city, about this country, and couldn't be more grateful to play here. If I were mayor, I would just probably keep doing what everyone else is doing. I feel like the city is thriving. People love being here. I don't really have that many complaints about it. Rachel Kennedy and Laura Pauduc, who is PADUCH, who are the Toronto Fringe directors and co-leads. We'd split the job into a co-mayorship. We would bring the same breakdown of duties to City Hall as we have here as co-leads of the Toronto Fringe Festival. Laura would delve into the day-to-day operations to streamline individual departments, while Rachel would work on collaborations. This would allow us to seek out new ways for portfolios to work together, building partnerships with other cities internationally and within Canada, and pulling together organizations within the social services and nonprofit sectors to provide wraparound supports for Torontonians. This would be a turbo boost for the resources the city already has, and the best way to discover what is missing. Toronto's art sector punches above its weight on the international stage and boosts the local economy on a daily basis. Our co-mayorship would bestow agency to the night economy manager to allow them the resources to support artists of all disciplines and to help residents and tourists discover Toronto's rich and diverse cultural offerings. And would the Toronto Arts Council budget triple during our term? Safe bet. Our co-mayorship would uphold life-work balance while identifying gaps, closing them, and setting policies that benefit all sectors, because teamwork makes the dream work. Diana Yoon, and that's Yoon, who is a climate and housing advocate. More community-owned buildings. The city could double the multi-unit residential acquisition program, allowing community organizations to purchase rental buildings and keep them permanently affordable as co-ops, nonprofits, and community land trusts. Right now, when an apartment building goes up for sale, tenants are left in limbo, fearing rent hikes, rent evictions, or displacement. But it doesn't have to be this way. That same building could be purchased and kept affordable, so the people who live there can stay. Widen the electorate. In a city where nearly half the population is made up of immigrants, extending municipal voting rights to permanent residents would strengthen our democracy and better reflect the people who call Toronto home. Astra Burka, and that's Burka, who is an architect and filmmaker. If I were mayor, I would like to be known as the mayor of creativity. What we are missing here in Toronto is a bold, creative, long-term vision filled with humor and happy places. We can start by streamlining bureaucracy and getting rid of the dreary, bureaucratic branding talk. We have to create new ways of talking and bring fun, positive energy to how we operate. We need to stop using such expressions as, quote, I will look in my toolkit to solve congestion. City Hall bureaucrats prefer to try to convey stability rather than allow creative expression and action. I would love to hear enthusiasm from them. The words, that is a great idea, and let's go for it. Instead, bureaucratic responses create barriers that result in half measures, compromises, NIMBYism, and expensive solutions. So if you want to send them your ideas, this is the email. The email is IFIWEREMAYOR @THESTAR.ca, and you send them with the following information. Your idea in 200 words or less, a short 45 seconds or less selfie-style video clip with your elevator pitch, a headshot. How to take your headshot. Face the camera straight on, stand against a plain, white or light colored background, ensure an unobstructed view of head and shoulders, and resolution 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. And Sasha Mosin is a staff reporter with the Star. You can reach her at her email, which is SAMOHSEN@THESTAR.ca. Our next article is under Canada, and the title is Canada Commits $270 million to Ukraine as Carney addresses European Summit in Armenia. And this article is written by Elisa Passafiume, and that's Passafiume of the Canadian Press. Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government will contribute $270 million to help Ukraine secure critical military capabilities in its defense against Russia's full-scale invasion. Carney made the announcement in Armenia on Monday, where he is meeting with world leaders at the European Political Community Summit, a gathering focused on strategic cooperation in politics, security, and infrastructure. The money will go towards buying items from a NATO list and bring Canada's total monetary support for Ukraine to $25.8 billion. Is part of a bigger puzzle and a conflict where Ukraine is gaining some advantage, Carney told reporters. In opening remarks before meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Carney said all of Canada is behind Ukraine. He said this latest contribution will help strengthen Ukraine and ensure prosperity for its people when peace comes. And it will come, he said. Zelensky expressed gratitude for the moral and financial backing. We are thankful to Canadian friends, to all people for such strong support, he said. Canada is the first non-European country to attend the summit, which has taken place twice a year since it began after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Ahead of the announcement, Carney addressed the summit of European leaders, saying, "Countries must take on the world as it is and not through the lens of nostalgia." Carney told the gathering that Canada is at the summit because of the immense potential for partnerships with Europe. The world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions in technology, in energy, in commerce, and geopolitics, Carney said. "We have to actively take on the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. We know nostalgia is not a strategy, but we don't think that we're destined to submit to a more transactional, insular, and brutal world. And gatherings such as these point to a better way forward." Carney said it is his strong personal view that the international order will be rebuilt, and it will be rebuilt out of Europe. Early Monday, Carney met with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and that's Leyen, and Antonio Costa, COSTA, President of the European Council. A readout from the Prime Minister's office says the leaders discussed deepening collaboration in areas such as supply chains, critical minerals, energy, and technologies. After the meeting, Costa said Canada's invitation to the summit was partly due to Carney's speech in Davos, which he described as great inspiration. Because, as Mark Carney said in this very important speech in Davos, the like-minded countries around the world need to keep together to strengthen their relationships, because this is essential to stabilize these very challenging moments in the world, he said. Costa said Canada shares a vision of the world based on the multilateralism and the rule of law. While Europe and Canada will continue to deepen trade and defense ties, he said, there is a geographic problem with Canada joining the EU. Carney met Sunday with Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, and that's Pashinyan, and thanked him for the invitation to attend the summit at a crucial time for Europe and European values. He also has meetings with Italian Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni, and that's Meloni, and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, and that's Sanchez, on Monday. And this report by the Canadian Press was first published May 4th, 2026. Our next article is under federal politics, and the title is Carney Government Providing an Additional $1.5 billion to Steel, Aluminum, and Copper sectors in face of Trump tariffs. And this new money comes on top of the billions Ottawa has already made available to the sector that has been hit hard by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. And this article is written by Ryan Tumilty, Tumilty, of the Ottawa Bureau. The federal government is putting an additional $1.5 billion on the line for the steel, aluminum, and copper sectors to help them survive the damage of U.S. tariffs. Industry Minister Melanie Joly, Joly, made the announcement Monday morning, which includes $1 billion from the Business Development Bank of Canada in low-cost loans to businesses hit by the tariffs. There's also another $500 million available through a regional tariff fund that is meant to help businesses shift into other markets not hit by tariffs. We are taking concrete action to strengthen Canada's economy by standing behind our steel, aluminum, and copper industries, Joly said in a news release. The new measures announced today will protect workers and ensure companies have the tools and financing they need to keep operating, growing, and building Canada's strength at home. The new money comes on top of billions the federal government has already made available to the sector that has been hit hard by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. In April, those tariffs were expanded to cover not just steel, aluminum, and copper made in Canada, but also manufactured products containing those materials. And Ryan Tumilty is an Ottawa-based reporter covering Parliament Hill. You can reach him at his email, which is rtumilty @ THESTAR.CA. Our next article is Underworld, and the title is Astronomers Believe They've Detected an Atmosphere Around a Tiny Icy World Beyond Pluto. And this new study suggests that a tiny icy world beyond Pluto harbors a thin, delicate atmosphere that may have been created by volcanic eruptions or a comet strike. And this article is written by Marcia Dunn of the Associated Press. A new study suggests that a tiny icy world beyond Pluto harbors a thin, delicate atmosphere that may have been created by volcanic eruptions or a comet strike. Just 300 miles, 500 kilometers or so across this mini Pluto is thought to be the solar system's smallest object yet, with a clearly detected global atmosphere bound by gravity, said lead researcher Ko Arimatsu, Arimatsu, of the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan. This is an amazing development, but it sorely needs independent verification. The implications are profound if verified, said Southwest Research Institute's Alan Stern, Stern, the lead scientist behind NASA's New Horizons mission to Pluto and beyond. He was not involved in the study. The finding offers fresh insight into our solar system's farthest, coldest objects in a region known as the Kuiper Belt. That's Kuiper, Kuiper Belt. Researchers used 3 telescopes in Japan to observe the object in 2024 as it passed in front of a background star, briefly dimming the starlight. It changes our view of small worlds in the solar system, not only beyond Neptune, Arimatsu said in an email. Finding an atmosphere around such a small object was genuinely surprising, he added, and challenges the conventional view that atmospheres are limited to large planets, dwarf planets, and some large moons. This so-called minor planet, formerly known as 612533-2002 XV93, is considered a Plutono, circling the Sun twice in the time it takes Neptune to complete 3 solar orbits. At the time of the study, it was more than 3.4 billion miles, 5.5 billion kilometers away, farther than even Pluto, the only other object in the Kuiper Belt with an observed atmosphere. This cosmic iceball's atmosphere is believed to be 5 million to 10 million times thinner than Earth's protective atmosphere, according to the study appearing Monday in the journal Nature Astronomy. It's 50 to 100 times thinner than even Pluto's tenuous atmosphere. The likeliest atmosphere's chemicals are methane, nitrogen, or carbon monoxide, any of which could reproduce the observed dimming as the object passed before the star, according to Arimatsu. Further observations, especially by NASA's Webb Space Telescope, could verify the makeup of the atmosphere, according to Arimatsu. This is why future monitoring is so important, he said. If the atmosphere fades over the next several years, that would support an impact origin. If it persists or varies seasonally, that would point more towards ongoing internal gas supply from ice volcanoes. The Associated Press Health and Science Department received support from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Department of Science Education and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. The AP is solely responsible for all content. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is under sports, and it's under amateur sports. Title is a sub 2 hours record gives runners inspiration heading into the Toronto Marathon. The science has given runners super shoes. Sebastian Saw, SAWE, gave them a time that was superhuman. And this article is written by Carrie Gillespie Gillespie, who is a sports reporter. It wasn't that long ago that breaking the 2-hour barrier in the marathon was thought to be laughable, possibly even beyond human capabilities. So the achievement last weekend in London is understandably the talk of the elite and recreational runners alike. Runners tackling the 42.2 kilometer distance at the Toronto Marathon on Sunday called Sebastian Sau's world record of 1 hour 59 minutes and 30 seconds unbelievable, superhuman, and an inspiration to chase their own more modest goals. Canada's elite runners, while in awe of the time, were less surprised to see the barrier broken because they know the impact of shoe technology and nutritional supplements in the last decade, and the psychology of the mark having been reached previously under controlled conditions that made it unofficial. Canada's fastest men say we've entered a new era where those advances enable them to train harder, to shave off seconds, and allow the 4 or 5 hour marathoners to walk with less pain on Monday. Kai Ni, and that's N-I, who started running last July, says a sub 2 hour marathon is barely conceivable. It's 17 seconds for the 100-meter dash, and repeat that 422 times. That's incredible. His goal Sunday is to finish in 3 hours and 40 minutes, and to help with that, he bought a pair of Adidas Super Shoes. At 200 grams with responsive cushioning and carbon-infused rods, Ni's and I's shoes are twice the weight of the 97-gram version Saw and the other two runners who broke the previous world record raced in, but it's far superior to what was available to recreational runners just a few years ago. It's bouncy. I do feel the difference, but it's expensive, so I don't wear it for everyday running. Cameron Levins, Levins, is the closest a Canadian has come to a 2 hour marathon with a 2 hour, 5 minutes, and 36 seconds in Tokyo in 2023. But he says a sub 2 hour race feels like a different world from what I'm doing. His Canadian record works out to 2 minutes and 59 seconds per kilometer, compared to Saw's 2 minutes and 50 seconds. The 9-second gap, Levin said, is a huge amount of time per kilometer. The fact that a couple of people did it, Yomif Kejelcha, and it's Kejelcha, did a sub 2 hour in his debut. I think this could change things. He thinks back to when he first broke Canada's men's record, which had been held by Jerome Drayton, Drayton, since 1975, and thought probably no Canadian is going to touch this for a long time. But once someone does it, others inevitably follow. Rory Linkletter is in the 2 minutes and 6 seconds now, and that's just the way it tends to go, said Levins, who is running in the Canadian 10K Championships in Ottawa later this month. Mackenzie Walker is running her first marathon Sunday and can't fathom elite speeds when her goal is 4.5 hours, but says it's all about perspective. I've been talking to a lot of my friends who are saying there's no way they could even do a marathon or a half marathon. But I've been there, she said. And so I bet those guys have also said at some point in time, there's no way you can get sub 2 in a marathon, and then they just go and do it. It's just cool. It's all about perspective and pushing yourself. That's why I signed up. I saw people who were able to run a marathon, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. Linkletter became the first Canadian to run under 1 hour in the half marathon when he set a national record of 59 minutes and 49 seconds in Houston in January. When I broke an hour, I was obviously elated, but then it kind of made me realize that someone's definitely going to break 2 hours, and it's probably going to be sooner than later. He was running in university when the super shoe era was ignited by a Nike Vaporfly, billed as improving running economy by 4%. But many elite runners didn't have access to them, and it took time for companies like Puma, Asics, Hoka, and Adidas to catch up with their own versions. Linkletter ran his first 4 marathons without super shoes and his last 10 with them. The shoes are a big factor in faster race times, but Linkletter says the biggest impact isn't from wearing them on race day, but the cumulative effect of using them as another tool to train harder and recover faster. You'd have to be denying a lot of real strong evidence and what you feel to not give credit where credit is due in the advancement in technology, which some people don't like, he said. Back in the day, hockey sticks were just made out of wood. Now they're made out of carbon and they have extra elasticity and you can shoot a puck faster. I think it's just part of sports to have advancements in technology that improve the quality of play. We shouldn't resist it. We should embrace it and enjoy what is a cool era. It's changing the sport in a way that makes for a different set of puzzles and problems for elite athletes and even amateur athletes of how do I get better at the sport. Science has helped pushing athletes to higher carbohydrate fueling. Companies make more products that are easier to absorb, which has reduced bonking or hitting the wall in the marathon. Linkletter said he dropped his personal best to 2 minutes 6 seconds 0.04 on the challenging Boston Marathon course last month. With the greatest barrier in men's running achieved, what's next? There's no other round number that feels super obvious, but I do think people are going to continue to get marginally faster, he said. To Ada Zaheer, who is Zaheer, who is hoping Toronto's downhill course propels her to a 4-hour finish, the astonishing world record shows the dedication at the top level, and for more mediocre runners like myself, it's a lot of inspiration to push me to be the best version of myself. And Carrie Gillespie is a Toronto-based sports reporter for The Star. You can reach her at her email, which is KGILLESPIE@ THESTAR.ca. Here's an article in the business section, and it's an opinion. 5 simple money moves that take just 5 minutes. And this article is written by Leslie Ann Scorgie, Scorgie, who's contributing columnist. And she is a Toronto-based personal finance columnist and a freelance contributing columnist for The Star. Meaningful progress on your money doesn't require hours. It can happen in short, focused bursts. Here are 5 simple money moves, each designed to take just 5 minutes. Set your timer and let's go. Spend 5 minutes canceling or simplifying one thing. Choose one small area to simplify. This could be canceling or downgrading a subscription you no longer use or could do without. It might involve reviewing your calendar and cutting back on your social plans, reducing the sheer number of plans and or simplifying them to save money, swapping a dinner date for a coffee and a walk, unsubscribing from retail emails that trigger impulse spending, and removing a stored payment method from a shopping app are also great actions. By spending just 5 minutes on this first task, you'll achieve a quick win, money saved, and reduce financial friction, making this 5-minute highly repeatable. Spend 5 minutes reviewing one policy. They're probably still in their prospective envelopes and or attached to an unopened email. It's time to open just one insurance policy. It could be for your home, auto, life, disability, critical illness, and if you're a self-employed person, it might be your professional liability insurance. Take 5 minutes to skim the coverage amounts, renew a date, and monthly or annual costs. Put the policy through AI to help digest the critical details instantly and to give you a summary of your coverage. Ask yourself one question. Does this still reflect my life today? If your life circumstances change, it's time to update your coverage. You're not trying to optimize or shop around at this moment. You're simply checking for anything that feels outdated or off. If something stands out, flag it and mark your calendar to take action on it when you've got time over the coming weeks. This one small check can save you from being overinsured, underinsured, very risky, or paying for something you no longer need. Spend 5 minutes creating a micro savings goal. Open your banking app and decide on one small specific savings goal that's achievable and immediate. This could be a total sum like $500 over the next 6 weeks, $83 per week, or it could be a goal of a certain weekly or daily amount with an indefinite timeline on it. If your budget is tight, this might work out to $25 a week. If you've got more flexibility, you may want to try $27.40 per day to reach $10,000 within 1 year. Then write it down in your notes app or label a savings account with that goal's nickname. Automate it with your banking app. Schedule it to happen right after your paycheck hits so the money moves before you have a chance to spend it. A clearly defined goal gives your money direction. Start small. Your capacity to save will grow as you implement these other 5-minute fixes, freeing up cash flow. Spend 5 minutes scanning over your last 30 transactions. Log into your bank or credit card account and open your recent transactions. Carefully scroll through your last 30 or so purchases. You're not analyzing everything or chastising yourself for spending too much. You're just noticing, did anything surprise you? Are there small, reoccurring charges you've ignored? Have certain expenses crept up? Do any of the transactions seem wasteful or totally worth it? If you spot something unnecessary, act immediately. Cancel it. Make a note to revisit it or transfer an equivalent amount into savings. This quick scan helps catch small leaks before they turn into bigger ones. Most of the time, these leaks can be stopped with a few simple clicks to cancel. Spend 5 minutes doing a first use it check. Before making your next purchase, pause for 5 minutes and do a quick inventory of what you already own. Open your closet, your kitchen cabinet, your garage, or even just your mental list and ask yourself a simple question. Do I already have something that could serve this purpose? Most of the time, the answer is yes. You already have clothes you haven't worn, tools you haven't used, or products you haven't finished. That quick check can stop an unnecessary purchase before it happens. This 5-minute habit doesn't just save money, it increases the value of what you already own by bringing down your cost per use. What actually keeps that momentum going isn't a big overhaul, it's these small, repeatable steps. This next article is in the business section, and the title is As Other Department Stores Fall, Simons is Booming. CEO Bernard LeBlanc, and that's Leblanc, opens up about how they did it. After 186 years, Canada's oldest privately held company must be doing something right. Bernard LeBlanc, the first non-family CEO of the growing department store chain, tells us what that may be. And this article is written by Jared Lindzon, and that's Landzon, and it's a special to the Star. For Simons CEO Bernard LeBlanc, slow and steady is winning Canada's big box retail race. Since joining the Quebec City-based realtor in 1994, LeBlanc has watched as a parade of brick-and-mortar retail giants fell. Eaton's, Zellers, Target, Sears, Nordstrom, even Houston Bay after 355 years. Simons, meanwhile, just unveiled plans for its 20th location, a 92,000 square foot former Nordstrom in Vancouver's CF Pacific Center Mall, and last year hit a record-breaking $830 million in sales, up 25% from 2024. We had an excellent year in 2025, LeBlanc said. It was also a very key year because we opened our two newest flagships in Toronto at Yorkdale and the Eaton Centre, and those two stores have been strategic targets for us for years. It was a decade in preparation. La Maison Simmons was founded by Scottish immigrant John Simons in Old Quebec City in 1840 is a dry goods shop that imported products from Europe. When LeBlanc joined the company in 1994, after earning a Bachelor of International Business and Finance from Concordia University, Simons had 3 locations, all in Quebec City. By the time he left to join BRP in 2000, Simons had added locations in Montreal and Sherbrooke. When LeBlanc returned in 2015 as Vice President of Operations, Simons had just opened its first location outside of Quebec in the West Edmonton Mall. LeBlanc then worked closely with fifth-generation CEO Peter Simons as he and his brother Richard developed a foundation for further expansion. In 2022, he became the first non-family member to lead the company as those plans came to life. Now Simons has locations in almost every major Canadian city. You could say there's room for more, but we'll be very thoughtful and patient about potential expansion, LeBlanc said. After 186 years, there's no rush to jump into anything. The Star spoke with LeBlanc remotely from Simons' future home in Vancouver's Pacific Centre about the company's storied past, the responsibility of being the first non-family owner, the potential he sees for the brand, and how Simons is defying the Reticolopolis in Canada. Why did you initially join Simons in 1994? I was born in Montreal, spent grade school in Toronto, and then returned to Montreal for high school. My father oversaw Eastern Canadian sales for Air France, so we traveled internationally frequently, and I was always very interested in other cultures. I even took a gap year before university where I worked for a travel agency. I was good at math and wanted to work internationally, so I decided to study international business and finance. After graduation, I moved to Quebec City, where Simons was a very well-established, reputable family business, so I reached out to see if there was something I could contribute. I didn't bring any product development experience to the table, but because I had traveled extensively, they felt I could help navigate a global vendor base, and I was hired as a manager responsible for international business development and procurement for our private brand development team. Why did you leave to join BRP in 2000? I had spent close to 7 years with Simons in more of a merchant and product development role, which taught me the essence of bringing assortments to life in retail. Although I really enjoyed it and had a strong connection with the Simons family, I got the opportunity to join BRP in a role that would help me better understand product development. It was also an opportunity to join an international brand and help them expand international manufacturing for power sports, technical apparel products. That evolved into a more strategic sourcing and operations vendor management role, which brought me to Hong Kong, where I managed the vendor base in Asia. Then I moved into sales, marketing, and distribution for a global dealer network. Then I moved to Lausanne, and that's Lausanne, Switzerland, and took responsibility for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and then back to headquarters in Quebec in a global role. Why did you return to Simons in 2015? As I came back to Quebec, my ex-colleagues from Simons were telling me about their national expansion plan. At the time, Simons had just opened its first location outside of Quebec in the West Edmonton Mall. I had always kept in touch with Peter and Richard Simons over the years, so I met up with Peter, and we both felt it was a good idea to work together again. What was your role when you returned? After coming back to the company, my job was to make sure we could operate nationally after being very concentrated in Quebec, building out the logistics infrastructure that could handle the needs of the business as it grew. We invested heavily into digitization as we built our automated fulfillment center in Quebec City. We transferred all our operations there in 2019 to prepare the business to become a national enterprise, ensuring it could survive that growth without compromising its values, culture, and heritage. When you expand nationally, you can't be as present in store or know everybody's name as we once did. We wanted to keep a lot of the family enterprise culture and values alive as we grew. Then, in March of 2020, COVID hit, and Peter and I teamed up to maximize the strengths that each of us brought to the table, which were really complementary to carry ourselves through a crisis. We met every morning and every evening through that 2-year period to ensure we knew exactly what was going on, how we were splitting responsibilities to ensure we could carry the business through COVID. We decided to keep all our permanent employees throughout the entire crisis, which was very, very rare in the industry, but it also served us. When everything started up again, all our experience had been kept within the organization, so we hit the ground running and we were able to restart our national expansion plans. In 2022, you were named the first non-family CEO after 5 generations. What does that mean to you? It comes with a profound sense of responsibility. I had the privilege of working with Peter and Richard's father, Gordon Donald Simons, so I lived through that generational transition in the late 90s. Ultimately, their name is on the door, so we need to make sure that we have a very deep understanding of the values and the culture that has been passed on through their family. My role is ultimately to carry that heritage forward. What is the current state of the business? We had an excellent year in 2025. It was also a very key year because we opened our 2 newest flagships in Toronto at Yorkdale and at the Eaton Centre, and those 2 stores have been strategic targets for us for years. It was a decade in preparation. Nordstrom won the space over us in 2016. They had their cycle, and we were able to come in after they left the market. That really established Simons as a true national brand. We just announced another key Canadian city, downtown Vancouver, will be our newest addition in the fall 2027, which will bring us to 20 stores. How is Simons growing when most major retailers are shrinking? I would point to 3 things that contribute to its ongoing success. 1, we have the privilege of being a Canadian heritage brand in the geopolitical context which exists today. Many Canadians are choosing to support local brands, and that has had a positive effect on sales. We are the oldest privately held business in the country, and there are very few businesses that survive 2 centuries anywhere in the world, not just Canada. Second, our unique offering. Second is our unique offering. We have 70% private label brands, which is unique among big box retailers. Our brands are designed, developed, and manufactured with our clients in mind. We also have other national and international brands, and there's a broad spectrum of price points from entry level to more luxury brands. It's not rare to have 3 generations shopping together at Simons, and we can serve every generation with what we offer. Finally, we are saddened by the companies that unfortunately have had to leave the market. It has a massive impact on employees and their families, but it has created a void. We're essentially the heritage Canadian brand right now in the market. If you're looking for a one-stop shop in terms of fashion or home decor, Simons is a destination. Do you have any plans for further expansion within Canada or beyond? Being uniquely Canadian is part of our story, so we're focused on maximizing our market penetration across the country. Last year, we saw a 40% jump in market share, reaching 1.7% in Canada, which is still small. Even in Quebec, our market share is 4.1%, so there's plenty of runway for us within the Canadian market. In Toronto, we have downtown with the Eaton Centre, Midtown with Yorkdale, and out west in Mississauga. So the natural question is, what about the north and east? We feel like there's an opportunity for densification in Toronto and Vancouver. However, our strategy has never been about filling empty spaces. It will require finding the right location with the right demographics in the best malls in the country. We have 5 stores in Montreal and we have 3 in Toronto, so you could say there's room for more, but we'll be very thoughtful and patient around potential expansion. After 186 years, there's no rush to jump into anything. And Jared Lindzon is a Toronto-based freelance journalist, public speaker, and contributor for the Star's business section. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 4th, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star. Your reader has been Judy, that's me, and it has been my pleasure and an honor to read to all of you. I thank you so much for listening, and take care of your wonderful selves and have an awesome day. Thank you.